There's a stretch of road out in the countryside people call Hollow Road. It's not on any map, not on GPS, and no one really talks about it anymore. They say it's cursed, haunted by things you don't want to see and don't want to hear. I never believed it, not until I was trapped there on the darkest night of my life. It was a cold evening and I was driving home from a friend's place. The sun had already set and the sky was nothing but a thick black canvas. My phone was dead and I was low on gas. I thought I knew a shortcut, a back road through the woods that would save me some time. I was wrong. The road was narrow, cracked, and overgrown with weeds on the edges. Trees leaned close, their branches scraping against my car like long fingers. The deeper I drove, the heavier the silence became. No animals, no wind, just the hum of the engine and the crunch of gravel beneath my tires. Then, without warning, the engine sputtered and died. I tried to start it again, but the car wouldn't turn over. I was stranded, miles from help, with nothing but darkness all around. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. The air was cold and damp, smelling like earth and decay. I shone the beam down the road. No houses, no signs of life, just endless trees. That's when I heard the whispering. It started soft, almost a breeze, then grew louder. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was urgent, almost desperate. I spun around, shining the light through the trees, but I saw nothing. Only shadows. I tried to calm myself and decided to walk back toward what I hoped was the main road. With each step, the whispering grew louder, surrounding me like a storm. I realized the voices weren't coming from the trees, they were inside my head. Panic hit and I ran. Then I saw it, a flickering light in the distance, a small cabin barely visible through the trees. I ran toward it, hoping for a phone or a place to wait until morning. The door creaked open before I could knock. Inside, the cabin was dark and cold. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and the only light came from a dying candle on a wooden table. In the corner sat an old man, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice cracking like dry leaves. "What is this place?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The Hollow is a place between worlds," he whispered. "Once you enter, it's hard to leave. The voices will follow you and the shadows will claim you." I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Suddenly, the whispers turned into screams, filling the room with a deafening roar. Shadows stretched across the walls, twisting and growing into shapes I couldn't describe. Limbs, faces, impossible forms. The old man smiled, showing teeth sharper than knives. "Welcome to the Hollow. You belong here now." I blacked out. When I woke, the cabin was empty. The candle was out, the room silent. I ran to my car. It started on the first try. I didn't look back, but sometimes when the night is darkest, I hear the whispers again. They're closer now, and I know the Hollow Road never really lets you leave. I never talk about this case. 35 years on the force, and this is the one that still keeps me up at night. People think the city's where the monsters are. They're wrong. The countryside is where the real things hide. It started with a missing boy, 10 years old, vanished from a family picnic near a sunflower field deep in the rural zone. No witnesses, no signs of struggle, just his shoes placed neatly at the edge of the dirt path. I was assigned to the case because the local cops were too spooked. I thought they were being dramatic. I didn't know what I was walking into. I met the family, ordinary people, terrified. They swore they heard the boy laughing 1 second and the next, silence. The field was strange, overgrown despite the season, sunflowers taller than me. And the whole place buzzed, not with insects, but with some energy, like the air was holding its breath. We found no footprints past the shoes, no animal tracks, no drag marks, like the boy had just evaporated. Later that night, I walked the field alone. The sunflowers turned with me even without wind. Their heads followed my movement like they were watching. That's when I first heard the whispers, not wind, voices, soft, layered, not quite human. They said my name, over and over. Inspector Malik, you shouldn't be here. I left the field, heart pounding, skin cold. Told the others it was nothing, but I was lying. The next morning, the boy came back. He was standing at the police outpost gate, barefoot, covered in mud, smiling. He didn't speak, just handed over a drawing, a scribbled image of tall black figures standing in the field, arms raised, mouths open. The sunflowers were all bent away from them. The boy wouldn't say where he'd been. The doctor said he hadn't eaten, but his body showed no hunger signs, no dehydration. His fingernails were blackened like they'd been dipped in ink. A week later, the boy was gone again. But this time we found something. A hole in the field, perfectly circular, deep and narrow. At the bottom were hundreds of sunflower heads rotting, and something else, a pile of child-sized clothes, all clean, all folded. But no bones. I told the family to leave and never come back. They didn't argue. I sealed the report, labeled it a kidnapping by a drifter. That was a lie. I went back one last time, alone. I needed to know. I stood in the center of the field at dusk. The whispers returned, louder, faster, desperate. I held my breath and I saw them. They rose from the soil like smoke, tall, thin, with faces like wet bark, no eyes, only wide mouths that stretched down their necks. They circled me but never touched me. They sang in a low, ancient tone, and every sunflower bowed. One stepped closer and said in perfect Hindi, "We take what is given, the land must be fed." Then they vanished. I drove home and never looked back. A month later, the field burned down on its own. No source found. No rain that season, yet the fire stopped at the boundary as if it knew where to end. I kept the boy's drawing in my desk for years. But last week, something strange happened. I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, there were no feet on the porch, just two small shoes neatly placed, just like before. I took a seasonal job on a wheat farm out in the countryside. It was a quiet, remote place, hours from the nearest town. The only people around were the owners, a family called the Kumars, and two other workers who barely spoke to me. The land was huge, surrounded by rolling fields of golden wheat and silent tree lines in every direction. The air smelled clean. The sky was wide and endless, the kind of place where time seems to stop. It should have been peaceful, but it wasn't. The very first night I noticed something strange. I was trying to sleep in the small room they gave me, and just past midnight I heard something in the fields. At first I thought it was wind, but the sound had rhythm, like slow, heavy footsteps moving through the wheat. Crunch, pause, crunch. I looked out the window, nothing there. Just the wheat swaying too perfectly in one direction, like something was parting it from within. The next morning I asked Mr. Kumar if they had dogs or maybe some kind of guard walking the perimeter at night. He just looked at me and said, "Don't go near the fields after dark and never answer voices in the wheat. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. A few days in, I noticed one of the scarecrows was gone. There were 4 placed around the main field when I arrived, 1 at each corner. But suddenly one disappeared overnight, the one by the northwest boundary. It wasn't knocked down, it was completely missing. Pole, clothes, straw, rope, everything. When I mentioned it, the Kumar's son just stared at me. The next day, a new scarecrow appeared, but it was made from something different. Its arms were too short. Its head looked like it had hair. I never asked again. The sounds in the night got worse. The footsteps got closer. Sometimes I'd wake up and find muddy footprints on the porch outside my room. Once I saw a handprint on the glass, long fingers, too many joints. That night I locked every window, still couldn't sleep. At some point I heard something breathing just outside the wall. Wet, gurgling breaths. They didn't stop for hours. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a flashlight and walked into the wheat. I followed the sound of someone crying. It sounded like a woman begging for help. The rows seemed endless, and the deeper I walked, the less I recognized where I was. Then the crying stopped. The light flickered, and I heard it behind me, something moving fast, dragging along the ground. I turned and saw a shape rise above the wheat. It was tall, maybe 9 feet. Its body was made of twisted roots and dead crops. Its face, it had human features stitched into its head like a patchwork doll, eyes that blinked. A mouth that didn't move but somehow still whispered. The land remembers every offering. I ran, got lost, ended up crawling out hours later with deep scratches on my legs and arms. My flashlight was gone. My shirt had a tear across the back like something tried to grab me. I told the Kumars I wanted to leave. They said I couldn't. They said I'd walked the sacred rows, that my blood was on the soil now. I thought they were insane, until I saw what they were building behind the barn. An altar made of old farm tools, animal skulls, bones, and pieces of old clothing that looked a lot like what the last missing worker wore. They weren't hiding it. They wanted me to see. I tried to leave the next day, packed everything. My car wouldn't start. No signal, no power. That night they tied me to the last scarecrow pole. I fought, screamed, begged, but no one came. They left me in the field as the sun dropped, and I saw it again, rising out of the wheat like it had always been part of the land. That towering thing, limbs like bundled straw, face like melted flesh. It stood in front of me, tilted its head. Then it leaned in. I don't remember anything after that. Now I live in the field. I think I'm one of them. I see the next worker watching from the window of the farmhouse. I want to scream, but straw doesn't have lungs.